Okay, our next step is now we have to gather our sources for this assignment. So on the second page of the project description, your requirements are there. You will need to find one overview source, one quantitative source, two sources with a point of view that agrees with your position or stance on the issue, two from an opposing position or differing position from your stance, and then four sources are totally up to you. They can be from the open web. Remember to keep in mind, is this an appropriate source for my research paper? So how are you going to use that source, and have you done the work of checking it for accuracy, for validity, for bias? Those are things that you're definitely going to want to consider when you are gathering your own sources. Okay, so let's break these down one by one. The overview source. So in the previous video, I showed you all of these topics. Now, depending on which broad topic you went to, that's what your broad overview source is going to be. So in my example, I used privacy, and I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And again, I find the overview source right there at the top of my page. I will click on Read More, and I will simply cite it. So I click Cite, Export to Noodle Tools. You'll get this pop-up window. It'll ask you, do you want to import it to this project? I do, so I'm going to click Import References. And once this green bar goes up across the top, that means that this citation is already done for you and it's in your Noodle Tools project. So just to illustrate that, here I am in Noodle Tools. I'm on my sources page. If I refresh this, here it is. Okay, so that is my overview source. What we need to do for each source is we need to then add an annotation. So in order to do that, I'm going to click on Edit. And if I scroll down, there's a whole box that says Annotation. Now we need to evaluate the source and pretty much break down the quotes that we're going to take from the source and our response to it. Okay, this is going to illustrate to our teachers our thinking around our research. It's going to show our research. So what do we write in this annotation? Now, when you go to college, just keep in mind that anytime a professor asks you for an annotated bibliography, make sure you know what it is they specifically want to see in that annotation, because it might be different for every professor. In this case, your teacher would like you to answer the following questions. And this comes from a graph that I think all of you use, this conceptual organization. So you need to talk about the claims you believe, the concepts around that, the claims you doubt, the concept around that, and then what your overall position on the issue is after reading this source. Now, it's going to look a little different for this overview source, because the point of this overview source, again, is to give you some historical context around this issue and how we've gotten to this point today in our context, in the context of America or whatever topic you are using. So this, again, I want to reiterate, you should take your time to read through this. This will give you a good foundation for your research and the topic that you are exploring. If you see any specific quote that you want to grab, so for example, maybe I really want to use this quote here, and I'm going to actually just go ahead and copy that, and I'm going to make sure to put a quotation mark, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. Again, my quotation marks mark that this is a direct quote. So if I use this direct quote in my paper later, I will know where the source came from. So let's say I copy this quote in there, and now I want to take the time. You can do this in parentheses as well, however you want to do it. But you can take some time to reflect on how you might use this quotation or what you think about it, so on and so forth. Okay, I'm just typing in this filler text as an example. Okay, so again, for this overview source, you can use these bullet points as a guide to what you might want to write about in your annotation. But again, it's going to look a little different for this overview, because the overview is just giving you information, not necessarily claims. But nonetheless, it's going to give you some useful information as to the laws surrounding it or the policies surrounding your issue, or instances that have come up in the past that might be relevant to your topic. Okay, the next source I want to talk about is a quantitative source. Now, you can find this in a variety of ways. In opposing viewpoints, you could just go to the advanced search here and type in some keywords, right? So maybe teenagers, perhaps cell phones, right? And then if I scroll down, I see statistics here. Maybe I might find some statistics in infographics. I should back up and explain that quantitative basically means numbers. So numerical data that you can use for your research to either prove a point or to disprove a point. We mean numbers. So again, this is a way to find it. You can look at statistics, or oftentimes infographics have it, and I will search that and see what shows up. So here I find some stats on teenagers and cell phone usage. I will see if this is useful to me. This is how teens use their phones. That might be a way that I can incorporate it. If I want to use it, I can go ahead and cite that. But there are a couple other places. As you are looking through all of the other sources that you are considering, I want you to also pay attention to who is mentioned, or even if there are statistics within the article itself. So in this article, I'm finding it that they mention the ACLU a lot, the American Civil Liberties Union. So that might be something that I go ahead and Google. So I can say, ACLU, cell phones, teenagers, and I can find something directly from the source. So the thing with statistics and quantitative data is that you need to make sure you know who is gathering that data, why they are gathering that data, and are they a reliable source? So in this case, I might click around on ACLU to find it. And of course, if I want to use this as a source, I'm going to need to cite it as a website and web page and include all of the fields that I can fill out. Another place that I want to point you to is the Pew Research Center. They are a nonpartisan think tank that gather a lot of quantitative data and then analyze it. And so you can see at the top they have a bunch of topics that you can look up, and then of course you can search your topic here no matter what it is. So do consider Pew Research Center as a place where you can gather data. But again, any article or source that you come across in the database or online that you have vetted for accuracy and for bias, you can use as a quantitative source. As for the rest of your sources, it's basically a matter of you covering your bases. So the remaining, let's say, 8 sources that you need to find, out of those 8 sources, 2 of them need to agree with your position or your stance or support your position or stance. The 2 others need to oppose you or differ from you. Right? And so when I say that, you're not always going to find things that are black and white. So for example, if I say I think that teenagers have the right to privacy when their phone is confiscated, you're not always going to find an opposing article that says students do not have the right to privacy when their phone is confiscated. It's not always black and white. So you need to, as you are looking through research, find those differing opinions and then cite those. Okay, so again, I just want to reiterate, it's not always going to be black and white. You need to search for those little nuggets of disagreement in your sources that you are coming across. Let's say, for example, I think that, if a student gets their cell phone confiscated, that does not necessarily give the deans the right to look through it. So this is an article that agrees with my position. I can go ahead and cite it. Again, I'm exporting to Noodle Tools. Okay, and then as I'm there and I refresh my page here it is. I can open that up, and here is my annotation. I can copy and paste this little outline. Oops. I can copy and paste this outline here, and I can begin to address the claims I believe. I can start picking them out, right? So let's say I agree or I like this claim that the authority to take away a phone is not the same as the authority to search what is recorded on it. So I'm going to go ahead and put that there as my direct quote, and then I can respond to it. You can do that. You can type your response to it in parentheses or however you want to organize that. Okay. And then once you're done finishing all this information, you'll save it, and again, it will be there. Again, remember that if you are searching on the open web for them, you are responsible for citing your information yourself, okay? So if you're getting a new source and you're getting it from a website and a web page, for example, it is your job to fill out all the boxes of this citation that you possibly can. A reminder that when you're typing in the author's name, to make sure that you're designating whether they're an author or not. The important ones to fill out are the web page, the date of publication, if applicable, the URL, of course, and the name of the website, and then again your annotation here.